I give the floor to the Federal Minister for the Environment, Nature Conservancy and Nuclear Safety, Dr. Angela Merkel. President, ladies and gentlemen, the reactor catastrophe in Chernobyl 10 years ago was by far the most serious incident in the history of the domestic use of nuclear power. The event caused great suffering for countless people and made large areas uninhabitable. Here I would like to particularly thank our parliamentary colleague Erika Schuchart, who has dealt with this problem in great detail.
I give the floor to Professor Erika Schuchart.
President Hirsch, distinguished parliamentarians, dear fellow eyewitnesses, is there any more appropriate forum for publicly bringing the voices of people affected in Chernobyl to sympathetic listeners than our Parliament? These voices have frequently not been heard due to all the often absurd playing around with numbers. Our concern about the safety standards of reactors in the East, which the previous speakers have dealt with in their presentations, arose from the suffering of these people. In order to share my allotted time in solidarity with the affected persons of Chernobyl, I will now lend them my voice. There's Tatiana, a 14-year-old from Belenitsky, Belarus. The most terrible thing for me was a change in my parents. They disappeared. They sat there as if they didn't exist, apathetic, sick, disorientated, fearful, uncertain, without trust, without hope. You should know they were lied to too often. They waited, but they didn't know what they were waiting for. They forgot that no one was waiting for them. A woman from Gomel, Belarus, mother of 4 children, 45 years old. You know, the worst thing in life is the feeling that you've been misinformed, deceived, lied to, and finally forgotten about. In addition, there's the feeling of being abandoned, even by one's own friends, who have been, as you know, resettled. For those of us who remained, it felt like being buried alive. Can you understand why we need hope? A trip to the outside world is like a light that's kindled, which brightens the darkness when we return. A 17-year-old girl, Irina from Mogilev. We never told our classmates where we came from. Otherwise, no one would have associated with someone like that. Not to mention anything serious with one of them. They believed that we could contaminate them by kissing, and naturally, later, that would result in defective births. The voices of children and their parents in Chernobyl, as well as in Germany, are pieces of a mosaic collected from the questioning of over 1,500 individuals and from interviews during my research work in Chernobyl over 6 years. I was in the most remote villages of Belarus and the Ukraine. I shared these people's tables and bedstoves, trying to unearth what had been suppressed or covered up. The most important realization, quite apart from all the factual data, there was a psychosocial stress factor the victims would have to live with for the rest of their lives. This was the consequence of the nuclear accident, a ruthless insistence that one had to learn to live with Chernobyl. In this respect, Chernobyl clearly differed from other catastrophes. We're not dealing with a temporary, but rather with a lifelong catastrophe. From this perspective, the final recommendations under consideration are a first step, and I hope that we will succeed, so that we can proceed to the necessary complementary steps in all the responsible committees for life-changing psychosocial assistance. In view of the stress factor, the affected persons cannot afford to wait until their physical health has improved before tackling the psychosocial effects. They no longer need fish, they need fishing rods and people who can teach them to fish. They urgently need concepts of psychosocial assistance with contact, education and aid, in line with the idea that foreign cultural policy is no longer a one-way street from west to east, but rather a two-lane highway, an exchange program between children and their families with all people of goodwill. The so-called culture shock, often mentioned in connection with the experiences of these children of Chernobyl during their visits in the West, is a phantom, a delusion, erecting artificial walls in the minds. I close with an expression of thanks to the host parents in Germany who have opened their hearts and homes to 70,000 children, and with thanks to the children of Chernobyl who came as little ambassadors to us in Germany. You are a living reminder against forgetting, repression and concealment. They are also a reminder to us. Thank you.